I think my biggest surprise was the Maguire and Adam Wharton didn't go. No one was as good as Ashley Cole. I've never heard somebody go as mad and as crazy as he did. The funny part is how many big grown men, adults, just dropped their phone between their legs. And he's banging the cutlery saying, I told you, no phones at the dinner table.
Hello again, this is Aidan Magee from Clutch 9 Football, powered by Betway, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by an England hero and ex-Chelsea and Manchester City player, Shaun Wright-Phillips. Welcome along, Shaun. Now, my first question to you is, with the World Cup just a few weeks away, is there such a thing as World Cup fever? We hear it so often.
Yeah, there's always going to be that, I think, because a lot of players, the ones that, especially that haven't been there, it's a dream, isn't it? To be possibly in a squad to go and play in the World Cup is something, as a child, you dreamed you could achieve. And for the ones that have been called up, they will kind of carry that fever onto the rest, but the rest will also be excited because in many ways they got a chance to put a lot of years right that myself included haven't managed to do.
And lots of generations before you as well.
Before that, yeah. So the excitement will be there for them as well as it will be for us as fans.
What about for fans though, particularly as yourself? That's what you are these days. How much are you looking forward to it?
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also worried as well because because the temperatures, I've been lucky enough to play out there. Temperatures are really, really hard to play under. And there'll be a few teams, I reckon, that will adapt to it a lot quicker than we may be.
What plans can be made to sort of factor that in? Because it can't be the first time the FA have thought about that, can
it? Is there any plans really? Because the games are dotted around in different states, so each state will have a different temperature, and different humidity, and it might be humid or it might be dry heat. So how do you kind of prepare for it when your base is located in somewhere else? So it will be hard to deal with, but hey, we're professionals, so I suppose we just have to get on with it.
Part of the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to take you all the way back to August 2004, your debut against the Ukraine at St James's Park. When you found out you were making your England debut, how did that feel? Can you remember what went through your mind?
No, I can't. I remember my dad. My dad was more excited than me, but he's like that all the time. I was just, as I am, I'm quite chilled back. I was more happy about the achievement at the time to break into that squad. It took me, a season and a half to basically do it.
Did you feel it had been too long? Privately,
I wouldn't say it's been too long, but if you compare it to now, then I can turn around and say, yeah, it's been too long. But the players that were playing in front of me were fantastic players behind, like David Beckham. So, do you know what I mean? And at United, he was pretty much consistently playing well. So that was my competition at the time, as well as Aaron Lennon, who was really playing well. But it took us a year, it took me a year and a half. And that was the achievement of getting there for me, was like, wow. And it was only when I realised, when I retired, I was like, wow, at that time, across the course of maybe 4-6 years, I was among the best 24 players in England. It was only that time I realised that I was actually quite good at playing football, and a lot of people appreciated the way I played.
Is that something you don't value until when you've finished? I've heard lots of players say afterwards that when you're in the moment, sometimes you don't recognise what you're doing, what you're achieving.
100%. I think you look back at it more once you've retired, because when you're in the moment, you don't have that much time to think. It's like once that game's over, it's on to the next one. And even when it's off season, you're back in training in 6 weeks. So you kind of have to forget what you did last season, because you have to do it all again. And the best way I found to try and do things all again was to start yourself from scratch. So you're always trying to better yourself.
I mean, what about scoring for England on your debut as well? I mean, did that sink in many years later, or did you sort of realise the value of that at the time?
I don't think that one sunk in just yet.
Just yet, even now?
I think more people speak about it than me. I just remember coming on and David Beckham shook my hand and said, kind of just go on and kind of show them what you're made of, because we all know it. Mm-hmm. And when the ball came to me, it was weird because it came around the halfway line and I was just on my own. And every time I moved the ball forward, nobody got closer to me until I got to the edge of the box, and it was just me versus one player. And back then, and even now sometimes, if I'm one-on-one, I fancy myself to beat that player. And I just went with that same mentality and confidence and managed to get half a yard to get the shot off, and it went in.
Did it feel different, the levels at international level? Because, I mean, you're saying to me there, you're implying to me there that they stood off you a little bit.
It's always going to feel a little bit different because the tactics are different. And when I was playing in the Premier League back then, it was almost like, you go and try and score. We're going to go and try and score after you. Let's see, kind of like you punch, I punch. Whereas I found international football a little bit more tactical and more like chess rather than giraffes. And that's the way it was played. There was, I wouldn't say hesitancy, but there was less risk, especially across most teams, most countries in Europe. It wasn't like the Brazils or the Germanys that kind of just put it all out there. There was more caution about things.
But it felt instinctive just to shoot in that moment, did it?
Yeah, because you don't get many chances as a winger back then, because you wasn't that close. You was like 4-4-2. So to get there is hard enough. You weren't just already near the final.
You weren't as narrow, were you?
Yeah, you weren't as narrow. So when you get the chances, you have to try and end with a shot, let the keeper save it or defender block it, get a corner from it, or miss the target completely, because then you can't get hit on a counter-attack either.
Just going back to that time, you touched on it a few moments ago, actually, about the time it took to get into the England squad, the challenge. I mean, there was an impression around the time that Sven-Göran Eriksson just threw England caps around like confetti, but you're telling me it was much harder than that. It took you a season and a half to get in.
Yeah, it did take me a season and a half. I remember there was a lot of stuff that people were telling me that were coming out in the papers. How comes you ain't in the squad? And a lot of the times when my friends asked me, I couldn't even answer the question because I actually didn't know. And the bottom line to it is I didn't think about it. I just wanted to put my head down and carry on playing football, because I only played football because I loved the game and I loved the feeling of walking on the pitch, and when I got the ball and the expectancy of the fans just thinking I was going to do something. And even if I wasn't, that anticipation always got me up. And I always remember a goal I scored for City the second time at Etihad, and we was meet Man United 3-1. And honestly, I was gassed. But the way the fans jeered when the ball was going up there, it kind of gave me that extra boost, and I was extra mental strength to keep going. And in many ways, I was quite addicted to that sensation in terms of, as soon as I got on the ball, the excitement of the crowd. And I played football for the fans, and I will always continue to tell my children to do the same.
And I suppose if you look after things on the pitch, you play well, you score goals, just like money, the caps are going to be there as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they came through me playing well, and that's how my dad and mum brought me up. If you're good at something, you don't have to chase it. It will naturally gravitate towards you as long as you keep doing the right things at some point.
And when you're coming through as a youngster, you're at Forest and you're at City, you break into the first team early 2000s. Is England ever on your mind, or does it take you a while to realise, actually, I'm up to that level and I can get there and the doors may be open?
I never really thought like that, to be honest. When I did make it pro, the first step was to get to the reserves and then consistently in the first team. Never really thought about medals until I went to Chelsea, and I didn't have any choice, to be honest. I literally just enjoyed playing football. But I think as a pro, you have stages and steps, and you take all the steps step by step. You don't miss any, I feel like. And the more consistent you play in that first team, then that phase comes where, if I'm playing consistently well, am I going to get that shout, or when is that shout coming? Initially, I didn't think, right, I'm getting into the England team.
You mentioned some of the players who were in front of you at the time. Was there ever a kind of pinch me moment when you look around the dressing room and think, wow, I'm among some real superstars here, especially before you joined Chelsea and you were with that calibre of player every single week?
I would say my first England camp, was a reality check. I think...
In what way?
Like, I always trained 100%. Like, even if I was injured, I couldn't do it half. Even if I tried it, it just wasn't possible for me for some weird reason. And I remember going to the first England camp, and Stevie G gave me a daisy cutter with the inside of his foot.
He seems to do this quite a lot.
Inside of his foot. I just used lasers as a daisy cutter. But he did it inside of his foot. It came so quick and so hard. I was like, okay, I need to up my game a little bit more.
So what happened? Did you control it?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah. But it was just a reality check more than anything.
And what about the 2006 World Cup then? Because it wasn't as controversial as some felt this one was, but there were some key omissions to that squad, and you were one of them.
Yeah, there was. It hurt. I was a bit surprised because I had been involved in everything prior to that. But what can you do? Like, I was always brought up by my mum that if you fall off your bike, you get back on your bike and you ride again. And that's kind of how I had to treat that, because some players, it can affect your confidence. And if you affect your confidence ain't always easy to get back. And that could affect your career.
And how do they tell you? I mean, is it text message? I mean, some players said they've heard about being sold and signed by teletext and by WhatsApp and what have you. I mean, what was it like back then? Did you get a phone call from Sven?
Yeah, I got a phone call and he just said he's decided to go with Theo in front of me. And that's when everybody starts talking. I just said, okay, fair enough. I don't understand it, but fair enough. And
did you say that to him? You said you don't understand?
Yeah, and I put the phone down and just left it like that.
Because you weren't, I mean, if I look back, I mean, Jermaine Defoe didn't go. He was playing well for, I think he was at Tottenham at the time, wasn't he? And there was, the one I was surprised at was Darren Bent at the time, because he was a top English goal scorer at Charlton. He scored goals consistently throughout the season. I mean, as I say, not quite as significant as this one in terms of the omissions. Maybe we didn't have as many good players then, but we were still meant to be the golden generation, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't believe in the word golden generation, because for me, that was an amazing team. But if that was our golden generation, France had a golden generation. So did Germany have a golden generation. And it's in Spain, and it's been like this all the way through. I've been a part of football. Everywhere it's a golden generation. Yes, it is. But stop forgetting about all these other countries. They have a golden generation as well. We ain't the only ones with it. But it's like football there is a lot of ups and downs. Like nothing's always up. You have your bad moments, and that was one of my bad moments where I didn't get picked in the squad. I could have put my head down and sulked about it, but I choose to keep my head up and fight.
If you'd stayed at Man City that previous summer, I mean, obviously you have to go when Chelsea come knocking, particularly that Chelsea. But do you think, I mean, you played 27 games at Chelsea, you maybe played more games at City. Do you think you'd have had a better chance of going when you look back?
No, because I put it down to politics, to be honest with you, because there's a situation that has occurred right now, pretty much, which is if anything, the situation that has occurred now with Max Dowman, he should have had more chance of going to this World Cup than Theo did with that, because at least he's played first team games, whereas Theo came and he hadn't played any first team games. But it's just football. It comes with football, and that's why I say it's politics. It's who they want to go, they pick.
How much of an influence does politics, that word you use there, have on England's squads, do you feel?
I feel it was different than it is now, especially with Tuchel at the reign. I think he's shown that in his selection for the World Cup this year. He's picked the players that he believes are in form and that can win him the World Cup. And you know what? I'll take my hat off to that. Even if they don't achieve it, he did it the way he wanted to do it.
Do you think a manager has to be that way? Because I suppose they're hired based on what they've done previously. They've made decisions because they believe in them. There's no point getting them into the job and they behave differently, right?
Yeah, I think all managers have to be like that. And the majority of the big ones are like that. And that's why they are the best managers around at this present time and moment, because they make the decisions that some people can't make.
And in 2006, then you missed out on the World Cup, but you're still with Chelsea. You've still got a league title to fight for. You still got one under your belt as well. That was the first one, wasn't it, in 05, 06? Did it change your mentality at all? Did it change you as a player, as a person?
No, because football is my passion. It's something I've always wanted to do as a kid. As a kid, I threw all my eggs in one basket, let's say, which I don't advise anybody to do because it is a big risk. But I took the gamble and it paid off. So I just enjoyed every moment of it. And I tried to, even if things weren't going well, I tried to make sure I went into the training ground with a smile on my face at all times.
And did it make you redouble your efforts to get to the next World Cup? I suppose it's 4 years away. You're probably just not thinking that far ahead at that point, are you?
No, I just wanted to play football and play more and just keep playing and help Chelsea achieve and accomplish things that they wanted to achieve.
But you got back in the setup under Capello. How was that different, especially when you consider Capello to Eriksen? Because I always felt they went from one extreme to another, a bit too relaxed to a little bit too strict.
A little bit too strict. He was very strict.
Locked you in your rooms, didn't
No, I got. To be fair, I actually got on really well with him, but some of the rules I just, as an adult, like I don't even give my kids these rules. So like for us to be in that situation where we could, I remember we couldn't go into dinner. Dinner would be at 7 if we was in a camp. We couldn't go in the room. They would lock us out. You would come downstairs and the whole England team would just be sat outside, starving, waiting for the full squad to get there. And it had to be bang on 7 and then the door would open.
Did that annoy the players?
I wouldn't say it annoyed the players. It was just more like, why? Like, what's the need for it? Like, we're adults. Like,
Stamping authority, maybe?
I reckon he did it more to keep us together as a team. You all eat together. But when you've come into England, you've got to try and buy into a little bit of their culture, where he kind of didn't. He kind of just went, it's my way or the highway sort of thing.
But do you not think that he maybe saw those problems that all those players, in that generation have spoken about, the cliques, and maybe that was his aim, to get everyone together again?
Yeah, but that doesn't do that. That keeps us together for what, the best part of an hour. After you eat, it just goes to an hour a day. Ain't helping that, is it really? So I wouldn't say it's down to that. But everybody have their reasons for doing things their way, and I suppose in many ways that was his way. So even when we ate, we weren't allowed butter on your toast. You had to have olive oil. But that's most probably just an Italian thing, isn't it? So that's just the way he liked to do things.
I had that taste.
I didn't have it.
I mean, he had to respect his CV. I suppose he could look back over the years and say, look, I've done it this way. It's got me success. That's why the FA brought me in the first place. For you personally to be brought back into the squad and be a big part of things under him, that must have felt good.
It felt good in terms of he's clearly seen what I've been doing away from England. So that is telling me in many ways to keep doing the things I'm doing. And that keeps your confidence at the place it needs to be. But in general, a manager to me is a manager. If the manager says this is what we're going to do, I'll just do it.
Can't stop the rock. Big tournaments deserve big offers. Bet £10 and get £40 in free bets with Betway.
I think back to Jamie Carragher. He said about 5 years ago, he said, even in all my time at Liverpool and all the successful managers we had there, I never actually played for a manager. I played for my own pride, my own sense of self-worth, I had my own achievements and my goals. Is that the same for all players, do you think? Was it the same for you?
It's definitely the same for me. A lot of my football was played to entertain the crowd. And to enjoy for most of all. I remember some of the games I've played in, I've got nutmegged and I actually just laughed. Without realising that I'm actually in a big game, just because if I was playing with my friends back in South London, that's the same thing I would have did there. And that just kind of carried over.
And I suppose with the managers individually, if they come into a squad, they've got their reputations. I mean, a few bad results, they could be gone. I suppose you just have to keep consistency by playing for yourself all the time, don't you?
And your teammates. I think the times that the clubs that I have been at, we were pretty much always together as a unit and we fought for each other. And if you got that and they got your back and you got their back and your confidence, things tend to happen.
You set up a goal for Peter Crouch, I think it was, against Egypt prior to 2010 World Cup. Would that be correct? Can you remember that?
I think so, yeah.
Can you remember that performance and what that did for you? Good intervention at the right time, I guess.
I think at that moment, it kind of kept me in his eye line of the possibilities that if he does take me, this is effectively what could happen, and that's always a good thing. And
so you could see how you're going to play under Fabio. You could see how things were going to look on the pitch if you got selected.
I wouldn't necessarily say look and see how they're going to look on the pitch, but from his point of view, if you've taken me on the warm-up games and you're playing the games leading into the World Cup and I'm making a lot of noise, it's hard to turn that volume down because it's there in front of you, really close to the actual tournament itself. And
how did it feel when you actually called up for the squad? I mean, it must have been sort of a bit of atonement in a way for what happened 4 years earlier. Your form had been good and you've made your way under a very good, successful manager for your country.
I just honestly believe represent my country in general, friendly, qualifier, it didn't matter what it was to me, was probably one of my greatest achievements in football. Because as I've said in past, you're now nominated as probably under the best 30 players in England at that present time and moment. And I think that is an achievement in itself.
So what did it feel like in South Africa itself when you stepped on the pitch? Did it feel different? You're at a World Cup. I mean, the conditions were kind of like a bit autumnal, weren't they?
It was very noisy. It was hard to hear each other speak. They made it very difficult.
Vuvuzelas.
Yeah, they made it very, very difficult. But that's the buzz of the World Cup. I think to get there and be a part of it and to make an appearance and to be a part of that squad that gets as far as they did over there was hard. It wasn't easy because it was hard for us. We didn't really have any downtime. We didn't have a switch off at all because it was just football, football, football. No families. Unless you played golf, you didn't really get to spend time with your families. I didn't even know how to hold a club back then. I don't now. But so even when my mum came over, I saw her for the best part of half an hour, and that was after the game. But other than that, I haven't. The mental side of it was harder than the football aspect.
Do you think when Capello was trying to sort of keep everyone away from the limelight, do you think he was trying to shield you all from the pressure? Because the pressure just struck me as something that was unbearable if you're an England player, particularly at a major tournament in a World Cup.
Has it ever been anything other than that when it comes to our country?
No, it
I
hasn't.
feel like leading into big tournaments with our country, it's always like we're trying to bring our biggest players down by putting something bad out there instead of supporting them and giving them as much confidence to walk into it like they walk on earth. Like I never really understood our press from that point of view. But it is what it is, and as players, we're expected to act like robots and kind of just shut it out and get on with it. And that's what a lot of the players do because we have no choice.
How hard is that to do? Because there must be things that you see in the media sometimes and you think to yourself, well, that's not right. I wouldn't mind having a pop back.
For me, I was very good at it because I didn't read newspapers. I don't watch the news and I still don't now. So I was very good at just staying well away from it. So for me, I didn't really care. But some of the stuff I heard and saw, I can imagine the bigger players going into tournaments with that in the back of their head it's only normal.
Mm. And what about when you were actually there? Was there togetherness in the squad? I mean, the squad looked together, but maybe the quality wasn't there in certain matches. You struggled and laboured in certain matches, didn't you?
The togetherness was there, but you come off like it's hard to explain in terms of putting the right mix together at the right time. And
there's a bit of luck involved as well, isn't there?
There's always a bit of luck involved in football. I think you see a lot of things. You go back to the Arsenal PSG game just gone, the penalty. There's every chance that couldn't be given. We watched Saka handball one clearly before, and Arsenal had that little bit of luck. And I felt like because they didn't give that, I felt like he was always going to give that, even if it wasn't. They were going to stick to their guns a little bit more. But you need luck in football, and there's always moments in a game where if you do not take those moments and the other team gets a moment and they take theirs, it doesn't necessarily mean the team played badly.
No.
It just means they were on it at that moment that they needed to be on it, and we just lacked a little bit. That's kind of how I see it, but it's football, innit? Like you're going to a World Cup. If you're not on it the way you're meant to be, all of you, then you could pretty much lose to any country. I
think it was Spain's time as well, wasn't it? I mean, they won the Euros 2 years before. They had some outstanding players. It didn't seem like anything was going to stop them in that tournament.
Spain were unbelievable. They made football look effortlessly. They're easy. The players they had, the quality. You knew they could keep the ball for pretty much 70 minutes of the game, and you're chasing for that. And they only needed one clear-cut chance, and the likelihood was they was going to score it. And they're pretty much getting back to that now, which is a scary thought in itself.
If I can fast forward then 16 years to the present day, 2026, you've mentioned what you said about the squad. You've had your opinion on that. Do you think England can go all the way? They can do it this time? They can, I mean, with a fair wind, with a bit of luck, maybe?
I back England. Like, I'm a massive England fan. And I think potentially, and player-wise, they have what it takes to do it. But so does France, so does Spain, so does Holland. So it is going to be tough. Like, I think there's a certain route we might need to take in terms of staying away from a couple of teams. Because once you get to the final, it's you
that's
versus
where your
me.
luck comes in there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's you versus me. But if you can avoid a certain route, it would help us a lot, because our group itself, I think, is going to be a tricky group to navigate a way around, especially playing. I think it's Ghana we got for the first game, right? In Texas.
Croatia.
Is it? Well, we got Croatia for the first game in Texas, right?
Yes.
Honestly, I've been to watch my brother play there before I started playing football in the MLS. And I had to go back inside and sit in the box because I was just sitting there and I was just dripping with sweat. Like, it's going to be so hard. And if we can control the game, I think that will be our biggest benefit, is to dictate the speed of the game.
I think controlling the temperature would be better, wouldn't it?
We don't have one of those to further that, do we?
I know. Who's the key player in the squad then? Plenty of talent still left in there, despite those left behind.
There's a lot of talent left.
Yeah.
In there. It's easy for me to say Kane because he is the talisman. But I think if Morgan Rogers starts...
Do you think he will? Because I think he will.
Yeah, but if Morgan Rogers starts, that's the guy for me, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think because he's got a bit of everything. You know his work rate.
Yeah.
On the ball, he drives with the ball, so he takes people out of the game with his pace, power, strength. He can finish, he can see passes. So I think he adds a bit more of a number 10 feel to that role than, say, a Jude Bellingham, where I feel like I'd see Jude as a number 8. I always have done since he was at Borussia Dortmund. So I'm intrigued to see what Tuchel does.
Just look at the tactics as well. I mean, how stifling will it be trying to play that counter-pressing game in that heat? They don't know what they're in for, do they, really?
No, I remember playing for Phoenix Rising, and over there it gets to like, even at night, it's like 30, 33 degrees.
Wow. With
like no sun. And teams used to come there and try and press us for the first... After 15 minutes, they were gone. Like, if you go out with that mindset out there, I don't think you'll be able to keep that up.
What about, as a winger yourself and an Arsenal fan, what have you made of Bukayo Saka in recent months? Because, I don't know, I just get the impression he's suffering from burnout a little bit. Maybe he's played a bit too much, too young.
You might say that's the whole England team, isn't it? To be honest with you, it's not
a new thing, is it?
No, it's not just him. It's a lot of the England team. Declan Rice, Rogers. You can go through the list. I think since COVID, that group of core of English players haven't had a chance to have 4 or 6 weeks off of football and then come back into a season and they're playing like 60 odd plus games a year. And I'm not saying that other countries don't have a similar situations, but other countries have a winter break. So they have a little bit of time to kind of recoup a little bit and kind of go again. And if you look at like PSG, for example, they can phone the league and the league will cancel their weekend game so they're fresh for the Champions League. You try and do that to FA or PFA, it just doesn't exist. So I reckon there's a lot of players that are like that, but they know how to manage their bodies. They're professionals. They're completely different. And yeah, Saka has had an up and down season, but he's never failed England, in my personal opinion.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Can you just lift it like that? Can you just get into a different environment and that boosts you somehow? I mean, I remember Raheem Sterling back in Euro 2020, which was played in 2021. He hadn't had a great season for Manchester City, but he did go into the Euros and did pretty well for England. He was quite consistent, as he always was.
I thought he did more than pretty well. I think he was the one reason why England qualified that year, to be totally honest with you. But
But he raised it though, didn't he? He hadn't had a great season.
Yeah, I think football's just played different, as we spoke about earlier. And I think Saka will be fine because of the way he plays anyway. Everyone in the Premier League knows him inside and outside. And I think when he plays for Arsenal, I think Ben White helps him in terms of attacking play more than, say, Yuri and Timber. Because Ben White doesn't overlap until Saka's moved. Whereas I feel like Yuri and Timber passes and goes. So it kind of dictates to Saka where he should go or where he shouldn't go, which I feel like the defenders can read. Whereas if you leave it open for both ways, and if they double up on him, then you go, he has another option. And I think with England, he'll be fine. I don't think they will double up on him as much as that.
But he played in he didn't perform in a big game though, did he? In the Champions League final, Saka. Does that matter? Does that matter for England?
No, I don't think it should, because I think as a player, if you don't perform one week, you're trying to get that out of your system so you perform the next week. And I think for footballers, the best thing is that you can correct those bad performances very quickly.
And what do you think of the players who didn't make the squad? Players, I mean, was Phil Foden unlucky to get in there, for example?
I think you could say, in based on talent, Phil Foden and Cole Palmer, you could say that, yeah. But on performance, I would say, per se, a Eze or a Morgan Rogers had performed better than those two across the full season consistently, and especially leading up to the run into the tournament itself. I would say those players, even if they had a dip, they came good towards the back end of the season, and you always want to pick players, for me personally, that are in form, and I think that's just what he's done. I think my biggest surprise was the Maguire and Adam Wharton didn't go.
Not surprised by Cole Palmer, though?
No, because I don't think Cole Palmer's done Cole Palmer this year, just the same as we would say Phil Foden hasn't been himself. I think that's the same for both of them, but I think this may get them back to where they are, because now they're going to be able to turn this negative feeling into a positive again. And that might bring them back to the levels that everybody's used to seeing them play at.
If I could flip back again, who's your most difficult opponent at a World Cup? Can you remember?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No one was as good as Ashley Cole.
Really?
Yeah, he was probably my toughest opponent ever. I think Wayne Bridge came close, but I think in terms of like going one-on-one and him going the other way, Ash was the toughest one for me.
And who will England's toughest opponents be at the World Cup? Just looking at the first three matches and considering the conditions as well as you've mentioned.
I think Ghana. I think they're going to be very, very tricky to play against. They're physical. I wouldn't say they're used to that heat, but when they do play in the African nations, it's hot. So they're used to dealing with a certain amount of temperature more regularly than I would say that our England squad is. And I've seen some of the clips of the boys training already in Florida, and you can see the way like they're breathing and trying to catch their breath, where I don't think Ghana will have that problem.
Can't stop the rock.
Big tournaments deserve big offers. Bet £10 and get £40 in free bets with Betway.
Tell me about the actual day-to-day when you were with the England squad at those World Cups. Do you have any stories from the dressing room or training ground you can tell us about?
I wouldn't say training ground, but we was away. I think it was we were staying somewhere, and he took us. We had to eat downstairs in the hotel, and he was big on like, no phones, don't do this. And we're all adults. We got kids at home, so we're thinking we need to keep our phones with us, because if there's an emergency, you need to be able to respond at least. And he must have not been in the room, but there was all of us just, because we had to wait for everybody to come in, so we couldn't eat. So we was all just sat there talking, but everyone was like this. Nobody saw him come in the room. I've never heard somebody go as mad and as crazy as he did. But what was the funny part is how many big grown men, adults, just dropped their phone between their legs, like if it was to act like they wasn't on their phone. And we all looked at each other and looked at him, and he's banging the cutlery saying, I told you, no phones at the dinner table.
That must have annoyed you though, mustn't it? As you said, you got kids.
Not so much annoyed, just, there's no, just say, what did I say? Put your phones down. You don't need to like go crazy about it.
Yeah. Why do you think he felt so strongly about it though? I mean, you said he made the point, you understand his reasons behind it, but it sounds like he went mad.
I don't know. Maybe it's a control factor. Yeah. Maybe he wants us to talk to each other a lot more and interact, but we see enough of each other. We're with each other 24 hours a day when we're away, so we need a little bit of a break.
So you spent some time in the US and MLS for, I think it was 4 years towards the end of your career. How was that culture there compared to what you'd known in England? Was it a bit of a gear shift?
Massive gear shift. I think there was only... New York Red Bulls wasn't too bad at the time because they didn't have New York City yet. So most of those fans were in that stadium. So it was quite noisy. But if you wanted like a core football, English sort of fan atmosphere, Portland Timbers was probably the best one. It was like the closest to playing football in England than any others. And the only thing that let them down is they had that AstroTurf pitch, was their biggest fault. But in general, I think it's got bigger now. And they always out for big tournaments anyway that America are in. So I expect there should be a good atmosphere, but it's more of a family gathering than you see in England.
What was the biggest thing that surprised you over there? What was the biggest thing that you had to get to grips with early on?
The heat was tough, but it was the way the teams were formed. When I was there, it's most probably a lot different now, but when I was there, the way it was formed is that you would play against a lot of teams that had maybe 6 players round about that number that knew what they was doing and understanding the football and knew where the next pass needed to go. And then there would always be an element of a group of players that is where it would always break down. And I found that because...
Frustrating?
No, because it's not their fault. I think it's more of the system across the board's fault, because they don't really have grassroots. And when I was there, you didn't really get scouted. Kids paid clubs so their children could train there, which that's foreign to us in England. That doesn't exist. You get there.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you get there by earning it. I think it's changed a bit now, but that's how it started. And that's when I knew there was a problem, because most talented football, as it sounds bad, comes from broken homes. It comes from council estate kids, the hunger, the desire, the enjoyment, the passion. They found a way out, basically, in many ways. And that just didn't exist. There was a lot of kids there that were gifted the opportunity rather than fought for the opportunity. So their parents would think that football is just a time passer, and they were more focused on education. And I remember some of the kids at Red Bulls retired at like 18. He's a fantastic player. He just decided, all right, I can't feed my family on what the club's paying me, so I'm just going to retire and go into law. And that's what he did. And he was an unbelievable midfielder.
Really?
So I reckon they've lost a lot of talents just due to that fact, because they don't have the academy system there.
What about, you mentioned the differential between the crowds. I mean, what you talked to me about Portland Timbers and said that they're the closest you saw to what we know as a kind of raucous, rarefied English crowd. What were the rest of the crowds like then? What in comparison? What were they like?
I wouldn't say like they sung the songs and they got behind a team, but it was more of a social event. Like you go with your family, your kids,
Picnic?
you have a laugh. But yeah, but it was more like that. I'm here at the Red Bull Stadium sort of thing, rather than being like a true fan. Like this summed it up. Red Bulls used to sell out. New York City open up. Red Bull lost their crowd by half. They all support New York City now. Which that just, like, I can't understand that. In England, when you support a team...
That's your team for life.
For life, and you try to force your kids to support the same team.
Against their will, usually.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. And I've seen situations of America picking franchises up and moving them to another state. Like, their fan base don't mean nothing to them.
Do you think it can reach a new level of popularity after this World Cup? We saw last World Cup, if you can remember USA 94, it had like a limited appeal, didn't it, after that? Once the World Cup had gone, we kind of got back to where we were. But this time, can it be different? Not forgetting, of course, that it's going to be in Mexico and Canada as well.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah, sadly, I don't think so, because there's been too much negative vibe coming from around the World Cup in America since they got here. The ticket prices, the train, they forget.
But it's the same all the time. Remember South Africa, we were talking about security, weren't we?
Yeah, but
it was
I mean,
all nonsense.
with here, like, at least when you were in South Africa, they kept it for the fans. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like in America, from everything I'm seeing, it's to rip the fans off.
So does that go back to your point of, to get football successful anyway, it needs to be driven from council estates, from kids who are fighting to get out. They're not appealing to that demographic, that market in America if they're overcharging for the tickets, are they?
They're not appealing to the fans. I think people forget, without the fans, football isn't where it is. Football, there is no hype about it. Like, we talk about Arsenal's parade off camera. This is 1.5 million people. If they don't turn up, where's the parade? Like, that they make football. They make us who we are. Obviously, we work hard and we earn our own stripes. But without them, what is a football club?
And just finally then, what are your plans for the World Cup? Will you be at any of the games? Will you be watching at home with your kids or whatever?
Family. I'll have a few activations to do, I can imagine. But in general, I'll be watching it as a fan, sometimes even in the pub, sometimes with family. Do
you remember back 2006, you were the victim of one of Rio's World Cup wind-ups? It was a restaurant in Cobham, I think. What was
JT's fault?
Take us back to then. What happened? He fell for it, but you came across quite well.
Yeah, I weren't even meant to be going. I was just hanging with my friend in South London. I think it was in Bromley at the time. Yeah, and I got a call from John Terry. I said, "Look, Rio's been in contact. Like, I can't make it. Can you go for me? It's about some properties." And my best mate, massive into properties, and that is his line of work. So it's like, come on, Shaun, we'll just go. So I was like, all right, let's go. So we've gone up there and we're just sitting down and eating. And because of, I sat where I sat because there was something that I wanted to see. My view was quite a nice view, per se, and that's what got me caught, basically. But the waiter comes up to me and he says, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." And he just gives me a piece of paper, and on the paper it says, "Can you give me this? Can you give me some money, please? I'm really poor. I need help and stuff like that." So JT's there laughing, and I said, "Look," he said, "What did he write?" Right. So I gave him the note. And then he showed it. He's kind of showed the manager, and he's come over. And I said, "That's fine. That's all right. You can ask, isn't it? Like, I'm not going to say yes to everything, sort of thing." But
you're quite kind with him, I remember.
Yeah, because I always found that you never ever know what somebody's going through, and unless you ask for help, you're never going to know whether you're going to get the help. So him asking for help there's nothing wrong with that. That's how I saw it anyway. But the only reason why I got caught is because JT went through his missus' phone and saw the text that it was a setup for him.
Listen, that's a lovely warm way to finish our conversation here. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for all your World Cup memories and everything else as well from your fantastic career. This has been Aidan Magee for Clutch 9 Football. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for more World Cup content.